I'm a little nervous today. These words from Sean Diddy Combs echoed through a New York federal courtroom as his criminal trial began. The music mogul faces 5 serious federal charges that could send him to prison for life.
Today in a New York federal courtroom, Sean Diddy Combs told the judge he was, quote, a little nervous. The rap mogul's criminal trial began this morning. He is trafficking, racketeering, and more. The two sides are now in the process of selecting a jury of 12 plus.
Finding impartial jurors has proven challenging. From 167 potential candidates, nearly 50 were immediately dismissed. The rest faced about 100 questions regarding their media habits and opinions about Diddy. By day 3, they narrowed the pool to 35 people from various backgrounds. The surprise appearance of Ben Chu, one of Johnny Depp's victorious lawyers, reportedly sent Diddy into a rage behind the scenes.
Mr. Depp built a reputation as one of the most talented actors in Hollywood, a respected artist whose name was associated with success at the box office. Today, his name is associated with a lie.
Do you also have a member of the team going through the social media of these jurors, making sure they didn't do anything? I mean, how much research can you do in terms of, did they search for something? Did they say something? I always am curious about that because you come into court the next day and you always hear a prosecutor or defense attorney say, court, we have an issue we would like to bring to your attention. Juror number 5 was looking, it's like, how did they find that out? Is that what happens?
Well, it is in a high-stakes case like this. I mean, as you know, not all clients have the resources to hire, jury consultants and to hire investigators. But in this case, you have a defendant who could theoretically be sentenced to life in prison, who has the means. So I'm sure, or I would think, that his counsel have a team of investigators following the jurors around to the extent they can and looking for any electronic footprint.
Now, I mentioned before how can you believe the jurors? How do you know they're telling the truth? Well, I'll tell you what we've seen so far in the Combs jury selection process, you have what seems to be a lot of honesty, okay? Because you had one prospective juror who told the court that she had been sexually assaulted as a teenager, and that if the defense brings up at trial that, look, these alleged victims didn't report what they say happened to them, this juror indicated they would understand why, and they would be biased in the alleged victim's favor. This juror was excluded.
This morning, day 2 of jury selection in the racketeering and sex trafficking trial of Sean Combs, seen in court with graying hair. Federal prosecutors are trying to prove Combs used his power, wealth, and fame to force women into drug-fueled orgies he called freak-offs and then threaten them into silence.
The jury questionnaire warning potential jurors there may be evidence of sexually explicit videos, photographs, and language. Many prospective jurors said they had heard of the case, and this potentially damning evidence, video first obtained by CNN showing Combs knocking then-girlfriend Cassie Ventura to the floor of a Los Angeles hotel in 2016 and kicking and dragging her. It was upsetting to watch, one woman told the judge, but I don't know the full story, so I can listen to the facts.
Many prospective jurors said they recognized the names of other celebrities that might come up at trial.
Several potential jurors knew of Combs' cultural significance. The woman said she remembered him from Making the Band. A man said he liked to listen to hip-hop in the 1990s.
Can't nobody hold me down.
When Combs became a chart-topping artist. To remain in the jury pool, all had to say they could be fair. The judge tried to keep things moving, so when the defense asked for a bathroom break, Combs apologized, saying, "Sorry, Your Honor, I'm a little nervous today."
You put Johnny Depp on the stand. It's always a high-risk strategy. It worked for you. If you were representing Sean Diddy Combs, would you put him up?
Well, we put Johnny up because he was telling the truth. So that was a very easy decision to make, and he had the burden of proof, and frankly, we couldn't have stopped him even if we wanted to, but we didn't want to. Telling the truth as he did over several days, you're not telling the truth, skilled attorneys on the other side are going to puncture that. I believe in that system. I think in this case, I don't think he's got any choice. Given that video, he's got to explain it. He's got to say that he's terribly sorry for it, but that was an aberration. That's not who he is. He simply has to say that. I think you want somebody who wants to serve, someone eager to serve, because that suggests that person might be inclined toward a celebrity like Diddy. I would also, in this case, I would want men, not because men support abuse, but I could see this being very difficult for women jurors. I would want younger jurors as well. I don't know that older jurors would would be good for him.
Do you care where they get their news? Do you care if they go on social media?
I wouldn't care so much about social media. Certainly watching you on Law and Crime would be a real problem. But no, I wouldn't care too much. I mean, in fact, if they were reading the celebrity media, TMZ, Rolling Stone, that might be an encouraging thing for Diddy's counsel.
Now, Ben, according to the court today, they expect preemptory challenges on Friday. You have a lot of jurors who saw the Cassie tape. You have a lot of jurors who were exposed to this case or something that's been going on with Sean Combs, know who he is, maybe know a list of the celebrities or places that were potentially going to be brought up in this case. Difficulty of sitting 8 weeks on this jury, but they're going to be seeing and hearing a lot. Do you think that it's going to be tough to sit a fair and impartial jury in Sean Combs' criminal case?
Well, I think they will have a fair and impartial jury. I think the problem is going to come in, with the Cassandra Ventura's tape. I mean, whether you've seen that before, you're certainly going to see that during the trial. And I think that's highly problematic, obviously, for Diddy, whether they've seen it before or not.
Yeah, because the prosecution is saying she was not only running away from Combs, she was running away from a freak-off, that there was a sex worker in that hotel room, and that goes to the charge of sex trafficking, and also racketeering, because sex trafficking is a part of that as well. Okay, so the trial's about to start. We know that Sean Combs early in the week said to the court, I'm feeling a little nervous today. Let's say openings begin day 1, May 12th, okay? What do you advise your celebrity client to do and not to do as this trial begins and progresses for 8 weeks?
I would remind him to remember that every second he is in the courtroom, at least one juror and probably more are going to be looking at him. So he should act as if he were testifying every second he's in the courtroom.
The case centers on damning surveillance footage CNN obtained, showing Diddy assaulting his ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, in a Los Angeles hotel hallway in 2016. The video shows him hitting her, kicking her, and throwing objects as she tries to escape. After it surfaced, Diddy posted an apology calling his behavior inexcusable. Prosecutors now allege a darker context, that there was a male sex worker still in their hotel room, and Cassie was fleeing not just from violence but from one of the freak-offs. According to court documents, Diddy directed elaborate sexual scenarios involving paid sex workers and women under his influence. He allegedly supplied ketamine, GHB, and magic mushrooms to participants. Most disturbing, he reportedly recorded these sessions without consent, using the recordings as leverage for continued participation. When these marathon sessions ended, IV fluids would allegedly be administered for recovery.
I seen that too. I seen uncomfortable to my eyes situations for sure. That I don't rock with. You heard me? That's all. I don't rock with it.
And when you would see these celebrities at these parties, they was cool with the environment. They was cool with everything.
Absolutely, having a ball like it was 1999. So I don't know, bro. I'm talking about celebrities. I'm talking about big time celebrities. You dig? I was just young city. I was just chopper. You heard me? But to see like the juggernauts, the big dogs, you dig? The people we grew up watching, that was kind of exciting too. It was weird, exciting, and because you can't believe that you're here. They are accepting you. But I don't really think they was accepting it. They just was fucking having fun. They ain't give a fuck who was there. And it was kind of like a situation towards, what you see in here don't go outside. It was kind of like that, if that makes sense. Whatever happens in here stays in here, because everybody got something to lose in here. So it was kind of like that too. So I guess that made people be okay and willingly able to do whatever they wanted to do in there. You heard me? Because they knew that at the end of the day, it wasn't going to come back out up there. That's why people were so eager and fun to do what they wanted to do in there. Just my opinion. Because everybody has something to lose.
Well, yeah, he's fighting it. And I mean, he made a post saying that I will fight these allegations. They're all lies and so forth. But then the Cassie hotel video comes out.
Deplorable.
Now, I've dealt with abusive women in my day.
Me too.
So you can relate to this.
Right.
When a woman attacks you, you try to
do like,
you try to restrain her, or you try to block from getting hit. But there is a line that you don't cross, at least in my life, that you don't become the aggressor. Because at that point, no matter what leads up to it, you're going to be the villain.
Right.
And in this particular case, you saw your man, Puffy, beat her like a man in a hallway. Now, I don't know what happened before, but it kind of doesn't matter.
It don't matter what happened before.
It doesn't matter.
You gotta know how to control yourself and all that.
Now, you talked about this. You said that Diddy was on a lot of drugs when this happened.
Yeah.
And, you said Roger Bonds, you said that, he's not always truthful, but the one thing that he would say was that around this era, Diddy and Cassie would have these binges, these 3-day, 4-day binges in hotel rooms. They would take a lot of drugs and take IVs afterwards. And Puffy was going into rehab during this time and so forth.
I didn't know that.
You didn't know that?
I wasn't around
Okay.
at that time.
Okay. Well, but you did say he was on a lot of drugs during that time.
I kind of figured that based off just him having conversations with me about the whole scenario of what went down.
Former Bad Boy artist Chopper described discovering a room at Diddy's Star Island mansion filled with dominatrix-looking sex toys and weird stuff. He also shared a story about an MTV producer who claimed Diddy sexually harassed him, causing him to quit immediately. If it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, it might be a duck, Chopper concluded. It just don't sound far-fetched based on what I've seen.
Kicked it with Diddy in Miami?
Yes. I kicked it with Diddy on Star Island for sure. One time I kicked it with Diddy, and this one, you heard me, they was trying to bring me back on Bad Boy. He brought me to Star Island, and he let me see the house, and I'm walking through the house, and he went from showing me the house to me just, it's so paused. The house was so big, like I just started walking around myself, I was amazed. When I'm walking, you heard me, I walk into this room. You heard me, I walk into this room and I've seen all types of, what'd you call it? Dominatrix looking dildos and sex toys and all types of weird shit. That was in my head. Like, to be honest with you, at this time, I was green, so I wasn't thinking it was like Diddy's room. I thought it was more like Diddy be like bringing girls over and just doing all types of crazy shit. But knowing what I know now, that nigga's a fucking freak. I've been to his house in Star and I seen dildos, sex toys, and all types of weird shit in there. Definitely. But I wasn't supposed to just be wandering around there anyway, so I'm not gonna blame that on Diddy. I'm gonna blame that on myself, you heard me? Cause I ain't belong just exploring around there, you dig? So what you see is what you see if you're, not invited to walk in a place where ain't nobody asked you to walk into. But I definitely seen sex toys and all types of whips and dominatrix and baby Earl and all that type of shit. Definitely, 100%, definitely. One of the producers over there at MTV at the time, who was super cool guy. He actually had the camera walking with us, you heard me, to Brooklyn to get the cheesecake. The first Art Dialogue interview, you heard me, that I did, he DM'd me, and I definitely talked to him. He was like, yeah, bruh, how you been, Chop? I'm like, I'm straight, bruh. Appreciate you hitting me. Long time. He like, yeah, bruh. I appreciate your interview, you heard me, that you did on Art of Dialogue. I said, thank you. I appreciate you, bruh. And he was like, you ever notice why I was shooting with y'all and then all of a sudden you haven't seen me after that? And I'm like, yeah, I do. I said, why is that? He said, because one time, Diddy invited me to his office and told me to suck his dick. And he was like, he said, I damn near wanted to kill him, bro. He was like, I left the office and I quit. And so it don't, with the curse situation, it don't sound far-fetched from what I've heard. You dig? I haven't ever encountered that type of situation with Diddy. Thank you, universe, because I would be in jail right now, facing life or doing life. But I haven't encountered that type of Diddy, you dig? But I don't know, bro. If it walk like a duck and talk like a duck, obviously, it might be a duck. It might be true, bro.
That is considered sexual harassment, Sarah. I think that's considered sexual harassment, not what Sarah tried to do. You dig? So with the Kirk situation, I don't know. It just don't sound far-fetched, and that's all I'm gonna say about it. I haven't experienced that with Diddy, so I can't, I can't be like the people that exaggerate and say things that's not true. All I can say is 100 things from my experience. And my results for that answer is it don't sound far-fetched.
Cassie's lawsuit against Diddy, settled within 24 hours last year, opened the floodgates. At least 11 others have since filed their own civil claims. The allegations extend beyond the hotel video. Court documents describe Diddy allegedly holding a woman over a balcony during an argument and using threats, weapons, and even arson to maintain control over victims. Dr. Umar Johnson controversially argued that Cassie shouldn't be allowed to testify due to previous NDAs. After all the money he paid her, how can she testify against him? He questioned. You never see this with a Caucasian accused of the same. Despite mounting evidence, Diddy rejected a plea deal. When asked in court if he was turning down the offer, he answered clearly, "Yes, I do, Your Honor."
About this upcoming Diddy trial that's coming up in a few days. I think it's coming up in about 4 or 5 days. How you feel about Cassie testifying against Diddy?
Yes, sir. First of all, it should be absolutely illegal for Cassie to testify against Diddy. When he paid her off, I believe there was an NDA involved in that situation. He was paying her off to shut up and go away. After all the money he paid her, after her signing an NDA, how can she then be brought back into court to testify against him? It reminds me of Bill Cosby. Some of those women who lied on Bill Cosby during his sex abuse cases had NDAs. And the court let them break the NDA. You never see this with a white man accused of the same. You never see this with a Caucasian accused of the same. His lawyer should do all that they can to fight against Cassie testifying. She wasn't sex trafficked. So why are you testifying in a sex trafficking case? He is not being charged with crimes against Cassie. He's being charged with crimes against others. Cassie was paid and dismissed. Why is she being brought back into court after taking that man's money and testifying against him? That right there is clearly an excessive and abusive use of the law. Absolutely wrong. I do not like it. As far as Puffy asking for his case to be delayed, I agree with that. Remember, one of his lawyers recused himself, okay, at least one of them. So he probably has, some new people on his legal team. They got to get reacclimated and get caught up with what's going on. And I saw nothing wrong with him asking for a 2-month delay. He's already in jail. Y'all didn't give him bail, which y'all also think is a violation of his constitutional rights. So he should have got the 8-week delay. But here we go again. Deion Sanders. We want to make an example out of Puff. And of course, Deion wasn't accused of what Puffy is being accused of, but we want to make an example out of Sean Puffy Combs. He was too confident, he was too big, and it was time for us to bring him down.
They also say they found recordings of freak-offs, and the evidence was then used to blackmail these women if they didn't cooperate more.
Diddy's longtime ex-girlfriend, Cassandra Cassie Ventura, filing a lawsuit against him last year that changed everything.
He would direct her how to touch the sex worker, how to pour oil over her body, and he would watch these things happen while he was masturbating.
Cassie Ventura's lawsuit gave the blueprint for the Southern District of New York to investigate Sean Combs, and the lawsuits that followed gave the brick and mortar to build the case against him.
One shocking freak-off the prosecutors allege the Diddy indictment occurring around this incident involving Cassie.
The new video obtained exclusively by CNN.
Prosecutors said there was a male prostitute still in their hotel room. That, prosecutors say, shows that Cassie was trying to get out, and prosecutors in court quoted messages from Cassie talking about the bruises, the fat lip that she was left with
Initially, Diddy denied all wrongdoing, but after the surveillance video surfaced, he spoke out on his social media.
My behavior on that video is inexcusable. I take full responsibility for my actions in that video.
Diddy's defense team giving a preview of their version of what was happening behind the scenes.
The defense has tried to recast, not as evidence of sex trafficking, but as the simple breakdown of a 10-year loving relationship. And the judge interrupted and said, what's love got to do with that, with kicking someone?
Cassie's lawsuit would be just the beginning of Diddy's downfall. It was settled in 24 hours, but at least 11 others have since come forward too with their own civil lawsuits. Diddy denies the allegations in these lawsuits.
Developments tonight involving the case against Sean Diddy Combs, what he decided in court today, and what this now means, the move coming just 4 days before his trial is set to begin. Here's Aaron Katursky.
Tonight, Sean Combs makes it official. He's rejecting the government's offer to plead guilty and spare himself the possibility of a prolonged term in prison. When asked if he turned down the offer, Combs answered, "Yes, I do, Your Honor," as he stood in a baggy beige jail uniform. Terms were not disclosed, but prosecutors did say a plea could result in a shorter sentence for Combs than if he's convicted. The decision guarantees Combs will face trial beginning just 4 days from now that will test whether one of music's most prolific figures used his power, wealth, and fame to sexually exploit both women and men for decades. Combs has pleaded not guilty to racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution charges that accused him of coercing alleged victims into prolonged, drug-fueled sexual activity that he called freak-offs and threatening them into silence.
The last hearing before Sean Combs' trial starts, when he walked into federal court today, he appeared to be looking for his family. They've pretty much been at all of the hearings that I've been to, but there was no presence of his sons or his mother or his sister who had previously been at those hearings. So here's what came out of today's hearing. Number one, the government acknowledged that they offered Combs a plea deal. Combs acknowledged he has no interest in taking that. They're going to move forward with the trial. They also talked about the jury selection process, which one legal expert I spoke to said is probably the most important thing that you want to pay close attention to before the actual trial starts. And thirdly, we learned that Combs will be adding 2 new attorneys to his defense team. And just to recap, Combs, who is 55 years old, could spend the rest of his life behind bars if convicted on sex trafficking and racketeering. He has pleaded not guilty to all charges.
Diddy's legal team, led by high-profile attorney Mark Agnafilo, is building their case around consent, arguing that Diddy's lifestyle involved adults who willingly participated. He is an imperfect person, his lawyer stated, but he is not a criminal. They aim to frame the hotel video as merely showing a bad moment in a complicated relationship, not evidence of a criminal enterprise. What's your take? Could Diddy be innocent despite the video? Or is justice finally coming for his alleged victims? Leave your thoughts below.